Hello and welcome to the One Shot Show, where GMs go to level up. This episode of the One Shot Show has been brought to you by Start Playing. Go to startplaying.games and use our link in the description for $10 off your first paid game. My name is Matt. I am joined here, of course, by co-host Paddy Carroll.
Hello.
And also today by special guest Rob Hartley, the notorious ROB, who is going to be helping us today to talk about the experience of playing in a paid game. So this topic has also been requested specifically by Start Playing, given that it is a pay-to-play platform. So, look, let's not waste any time with this one. Rob, obviously the reason we've got you in to help us break down this topic is your main gig these days is to be on the other side of that paid game table. Yeah. But what exactly should the players be expecting when they come into a paid game? Let's go through the whole process of finding a game, signing up, making a character, and then eventually showing up for Session 0 and Session 1.
What to expect when you're paying for a D&D game? It's kind of like a question of saying, what do you expect when you go to a gig? And it's like, well, what kind of a gig? Is it music? Is it improv? It's kind of like, and even if you narrow it down and say it's Dungeons and Dragons and I'm paying for it on this particular platform, it's like, well, which service? Like, who's presenting that service, providing it? Like, it's going to be vastly different because essentially, for now at least, it's human beings that are doing the DMing, and so you're going to have all of the individuality of that person bringing to the table too.
I guess then step one, from the player's perspective, let's imagine Nelly D&D, who has never played before and absolutely wants to for the first time.
It's an appropriate name for them.
Yeah. Step one, I suppose, should actually therefore be to try and get a sense of what you are looking for in a game.
Exactly.
Which I imagine is quite challenging for someone who has maybe played not much or not at all.
So I can speak only from my own perspective and what I do from the other side of that. I think Session Zeros are important, even for one shots and paid games that are only going to be a one and done thing. And so I will send my players in advance a document that I've put together for myself that outlines what sort of a game do you usually like to play. Not necessarily in tabletop roleplay, because as you say, if they've never played before, they don't necessarily know. But like when you're playing video games, when you're playing board games, when you're just telling stories, when you're watching movies, adventure movies, action movies, what sort of games do you like? And I break it all down into the sorts of types of quest that I might send them on, and say just rank it 0 to 20, like you're rolling a dice. Like, do you like heists and or fetch quests where you've been given a thing that you need to go and find it and bring it back? Do you like just hack and slash dungeon crawl, kill the things, get the loot, come back kind of quests? Do you like political subterfuge, those sort of things? And I ask them all of these things, and I say, if you don't know, leave it blank, and I'll try and include a little bit of everything and let you know let you decide and experience what you want to get from that.
And I know that this is something you've mentioned before on the show as well, where you do sometimes end up in that position where the player wants something or is interested in something that probably isn't your beat, you're not the best for it, and you just say straight up, I'm probably not your guy. Like, what does that interaction actually look like? Because obviously you don't want the player to feel too put out if it's potentially their first time playing.
Outside of a paid situation, it's much more important that the Dungeon Master is also having fun. They're also putting their time aside for nothing, and they should be enjoying it as well. I think in a paid situation, I'm doing this as a service. I'm not really that into XYZ, let's say political subterfuge as an example. I'm not really that kind of a person. But if I feel like I can still do it, and they're maybe not all the way to 20 on it, they're like, yeah, I'd like some elements of that. I can be like, yeah, I'll sprinkle that in. Otherwise, I will just tell people, you want a type of game that I'm not going to be good at running here. That's not my shtick. I know this person in the industry. I know this person. You can try this. You can try that. And quite often, I will usually push people to start playing and say, look, there's an entire there's an entire website full of just hundreds, if not thousands, of Dungeon Masters, and you will be able to find them, search for the different code words that you're looking for, and find the game.
My primary encounter with Start Playing has been like because at the moment I'm running a game called Fabula Ultima, which is a JRPG-inspired game by Need Games, and a large part of like when I'm just Google searching for it are Fabula Ultima games on Start Playing, and then I'll like reach out to they'll find those GMs in other places. But it's almost like if you have something that is really niche as well. Like, man, I would love to try out this system. That's the other power of paid play that I can see. I've never engaged in paid play as a player or as a GM. You both have?
Yeah.
Not as a player.
Not as
but
player.
I have been paid to DM a lot.
And you as player and GM, or just as player?
I have done paid games as a GM through a different platform, and I have played games through specifically through Start Playing, and actually that's quite interesting because you've sort of angled towards what I have used the platform for as a very experienced player. I actually like using it to try out other systems. So I am interested in one-shots or short-form things that are in other systems, or sort of, even if you take something as broad as 5th edition, something that maybe remixes it a little bit. One of the games I'm in currently is the Lord of the Rings 5th edition adaptation, which is really interesting and quite cool because, Lord of the Rings, it's sort of the progenitor of a lot of the tropes that emerge into D&D, but actually in feel it's very different, but is doing that with a rules mechanism that I and all the other players are extremely familiar with. So that's quite a unique experience. There's also something, Rob, that you mentioned that I find really interesting as a parallel to something that you've brought up on the show before, Patty, when you have gone about designing your actual play games. This is that you have very specifically engaged the players in the context of other media they enjoy. And you're doing this with experienced players. It's interesting to see that there's kind of a parallel to be drawn there that, look, when you're a really experienced player, you could take the rules that you already know and you can build upon that with other sort of media tropes and media that you enjoy. And also for a brand new player, relating the game to other media is a really great way to, before you know anything about how to play, figure out what it is you think you're going to like. Rob, there's something I kind of want to throw at you and get an idea of how you might handle this, because this is actually a challenge that I've come up against running paid games. What do you do when the players don't actually want the thing they say they want?
Right. Yeah, that's a real good question, and oh boy, do we not have time for it.
I can see the clock. We have 7 minutes, thank you.
You've never seen one of my streams where I can ramble on for the same single topic for 2 hours. So yeah, it's a tough one. That does come with the experience of a GM, and as with most services, it's kind of you get what you pay for. If you're paying for something really cheap, then you're probably going to get somebody who either is super undervaluing their own abilities, and so maybe they're not so confident about what they can do, or maybe they're kind of phoning it in and they don't really care about it. On the other end of the spectrum, if you're paying like $2,000 for a game, you're probably getting someone like myself who is like, I'm doing it as my career. I put weeks of prep into it. Even if it's a one shot, I do prep it for weeks, and I'm talking literally here. I do. Like that's the sort of experience that you're paying for, so that you know that going into it, I said that I wanted a dungeon crawl, hack and slash, kill the bad guy and come home with the loot. And then I'm realizing at the table, they're not really engaging with that sort of stuff. I'm going to change on the fly and put a little bit of hint in there for them to roleplay and see if that brings them out. They're not really engaging in the roleplay with the shopkeeper. Cool. Suddenly a big explosive thing. Now they're engaging in the action. They really love the fighting. Let's lean into that a bit more. And the ability to change that up on the fly is something you're paying for with the experience of a good GM.
So you'd say that, first of all, by the way, if I'm paying $2,000 for a paid game, I want champagne and topless waiters. Like I
charge more than that sometimes.
My goodness.
And people pay it.
Are you topless though?
Oh yeah. Oh, did I not mention that part of? Oh yeah. Oh, right. After the game, we all have
Oh
wait.
Yeah. That's a different platform. So
it's still called Start Playing.
So there's an interesting thing that we're sort of getting towards, which is you're of the opinion that the player should, they're on a cruise ship, right? They should have their every need pampered to, in a sense. In that if they say, hey, I really like political intrigue, and then they sit down and they don't actually enjoy it as much as they thought they would, it's on the GM to sort of intuit that and adjust around them. So that's that. You'd say that is the ideal approach in the instance where you're paying a fair price to have this thing delivered for you.
Yeah, ideally. I think it's not entirely on the Dungeon Master, as nothing really is. Like it's a collaborative storytelling for a reason. You are sitting around a table. It's on you as well to go, oh, he's clearly giving me these hooks that I can latch onto with political intrigue, and I'm not really grabbing it. Maybe I'll try and engage with it a little bit more, and then don't be passive about the whole situation and sit back and expect the Dungeon Master to just hand feed and deliver you. Like going to a restaurant where you're expecting certain service, but you're not expecting the waiter to cut your food and put it in your mouth. Like there's a certain element of that you need to take.
For $2,000 maybe
I am. Yeah.
Well, then I guess the other side of this that I'm quite interested to get your take on then is where is it appropriate, and how do you go about as the GM setting expectations back on the player? And this doesn't necessarily have to just be on thematics and styles of play that you enjoy. This can be again taking the example of a first-time player. If they're showing up week after week and not learning the rules, how are you laying that expectation?
It's stuff that I include in my Session Zero document.
Yeah,
It's things that I say like, this is the expectation that's on you. This is what's on me. This is what I'll be delivering. This is what you're expected to do. You're expected to show up knowing your characters at the very least. I don't expect you to remember and memorize every single spell that you can do but if you struggle with that, have spell cards that you can reference, or have an app that you can quickly search for the spell so that you can look it up. It's not on me. I happen to know most of the spells just because of my autistic brain. Because of my autistic, pedantic brain of like memorizing information. But at the same time, it's not on me to remember that stuff. If I remember that you're forgetting a particular class feature, then I will do my best to remind you of it. But if I forget, that's not entirely on me. That's on you for forgetting your class. So I'll let people know in the Session Zero.
I hadn't considered that before. Like, have you ever do you encounter like crunchy players inside crunchy games who are paying, who then go like, but as paid GM, you should have caught this, or this should have happened?
I don't get explicitly people telling me that, but I do get it in the comments a lot on the videos of like, Rob didn't tell him about that thing. He's being a mean guy because he forgot to mention that he had sneak attack. I'm like, I obviously forgot it as well. Otherwise, I would have told him, don't forget you got sneak attack on this.
Because I'm nervous. I'm nervous to engage in paid play as a player and as a GM. So I'm curious to go like from your experiences, like, what would you say? Like, what is the joy, or what is the thing about it that I should give it a go? Why should I give it a go?
Paid play?
Yeah, on either side. I'm just curious.
A lot of it is just scheduling for a lot of people. Yeah. It's that they don't have somebody who is willing to put in all of the time that it takes to being a Dungeon Master.
Yeah.
Because yes, the Dungeon Master is just another one of the players, but they're one of the players that has a lot more on them than every other player, and they tend to put a lot more work into it outside of the game session than the players do. In a home game, the Dungeon Master is still reading the books, is still learning the things, is still coming up with the world building, deciding on what the next arc of the story is, preparing the sessions, putting together the terrain and minis and stuff. Often they're doing it because they love it, but it is still work outside of it. And so for a lot of people, it's like, I don't have somebody in my life who is willing to dedicate that much sort of time. Yeah. I'll happily pay to have somebody do that work for us. And then we can schedule a weekly game.
This is quite interesting as well, because on the GM side, my recommendation is, I think it's something that experienced GMs are more than welcome to give a go, but it might just not be for you. That was the experience that I had. And there was a particular group that sort of encapsulated this that actually been passed on to me by another GM who usually ran for them, because they had gone, we want something that's a little bit more punishing. We want, a GM that's going to let us fall on our sword.
Yep.
And, this acquaintance of mine was like, I know just the guy, sent them my way. We started playing. Very quickly turned out they did not want somebody that they really did not have a good time doing it. Right. And then on the other side of that, I sort of looked at it and went, I do something very niche here, and it's actually very hard for players to identify correctly that it's something they want in the first place. Right, yeah. And I realized very quickly I don't feel a particular need to be running that as a paid thing. It's just not for me. I would rather have the sort of long cultivated home groups that I have who sort of filter themselves out, and they can kind of live and grow organically. If somebody isn't feeling it, they drop out, we find a new player, and then what you end up with is a very stable group, because at the end of the day, I want to have fun. This is also my hobby, and that's the best way for me to go about creating a stable game where I can do the fun thing for me as much as possible, rather than doing it as a paid thing.
Yeah. My hunch as well is that I might be able, as GM, to run a sort of game that I can't run from my home group.
Right.
Through, maybe it's, because, from what I see on Start Playing, like I say, it's like people going like, I have a Fabula Ultima setting that I really want to run. It feels like that to me. So that's where my curiosity lies. And then similarly, that could work as a player or as a GM. Everything
that we're talking about this whole session has just been coming back to two words: manage expectations. It comes in, it's outside of Dungeons & Dragons, it can apply to every aspect of your life, relationships and things as well. Manage expectations. It's so important to make sure that you are aligning your expectations going into it. And so it's important for the Dungeon Master to go, this is the sort of story I want to run. And if you go, I've got like this idea that I just keep coming back to, and it's never going to go until I actually put it down and like start playing in this thing where like we're in this hellscape, whatever, and there's apocalyptic witches and yada yada, and I really want to play it, and all of your friends are like, that doesn't sound fun. You go and start playing. You go, this is an idea that I've got, and I've world built it, and you'll find people going, yeah, I'll pay to be in that. I'd love to play that, and you'll find people who are going to want to engage with it. So it's a good thing from both sides to manage expectations. I've got this thing I want to run, so I'm going to go and start playing and put myself out there as a GM going to run it. And the other player's going, I really want to run this thing, but nobody wants to run this sort of post-apocalyptic witches thing. Oh, cool, this guy start playing is, yeah, I'll pay him some money for it.
I suppose that's always the fundamental thing here, right? There's a conception often that there are more people willing to or interested in playing tabletop RPGs, often specifically D&D, than there are willing to run D&D, especially potentially within your local area if you're looking for an in-person game. And I think that is true to some extent. But I guess something that we've kind of unearthed here that is really interesting to me is actually that other side of things, because I've totally experienced that as well as a GM, where I just can't get my regular group interested in things that I'm interested in.
Come on, this is going to be such a cool puzzle, and nobody wants to engage in it.
And here's this wonderful platform. Here's start-playing.games, where you can use our code in the description for $10 off your first session and actually meet that need. It is a calamine lotion to that issue, both on the player side and on the GM side.
I'll say as well, another reason that people would want to look out for it is that, you could ask your friend to give you a shoulder massage, or you could go to a professional masseuse, right?
Yeah, you might learn.
Is this your side gig?
Yeah, this is relating back to the other step playing that I run.
But no, I meant to have my shirt off, not the masseuse.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm on my front. I can't see anything.
Why do people pay me to do it then?
I made to play Dungeons & Dragons. I'm confused.
Wrong dungeon.
Oh, I'm a dungeon master either way. That's why I'm on OnlyFans. But like my point is, like, people are professional for a reason sometimes. Yeah, you go, I can play with my friend and he's fine, but he's not, Robert Hartley GM. And so you go to a professional, and sometimes it's not about scheduling, it's just about the quality that you can find from finding a professional who's good at what they do and has the time to dedicate their entire life to pursuing a particular passion.
Well, and speaking of has the time, Robert, as always, thank you for giving your time to it flies by right like that.
Indeed.
Thank you for giving your time to this episode. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you, of course, to Start Playing Games for sponsoring this episode. Go to startplaying.games. Use the link in our description for $10 off your first game, and we'll see you in the next one. If you're enjoying listening to The One Shot Show, why not support us on Patreon? Go to patreon.com/OneShotShow, where you'll be able to find video versions of our episodes, long-form bonus episodes that we release every single month, access to our community Discord server. You can pose questions for our special Q&A episodes, and if you back at the higher tiers, you can even vote on what questions we cover in our show. Check it out.